Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll take a close look at our Jupyter Notebook environment. So how to effectively use it, a few helpful shortcuts, and also how to easily navigate through your notebooks. So let's start by loading up our Jupyter Notebook. This time though, we'll load it from the Anaconda prompt as opposed to the navigator that we looked at last time. Let's go ahead and search for the Anaconda prompt, and this will open a window similar to a Windows command prompt. Let's say that we'd also like to open our Jupyter Notebook from a different drive. To do this, we can change the working directory of our Anaconda prompt. So in my case, I want to open it from my E drive, so I can just simply type in an E and then a colon, hit enter, and this will then change our working directory as we can see here. Next, I'll navigate the course material folder that we downloaded in the last lecture, and I've also attached the zipped file to this lecture too. So if you need it, you can download it from the resources for this lecture. If we compare our directory here to what we have in File Explorer, one of the first things that you're likely to notice is that the Jupyter Notebook basically mirrors our actual file and folder structure. Any new folders that we create in File Explorer will also show in our Jupyter Notebook, as we can see here. Let's start by creating a new blank workbook. From inside of our Jupyter Navigator, we have a button over here off to the right hand side called New. And if we open this up, we have a few different options. So Notebook, Terminal, Console, Files, and even Folders. But for now, let's just go ahead and select Notebook to create a new notebook. In newer versions of Jupyter Notebook, we also need to specify the kernel that we will be using. A kernel is basically just a program that executes our code. We can just leave it as the default of Python 3, and then I'll select this option down here so that it will always use this kernel. Okay, so our notebook is currently untitled, and if we click on this, we get to enter a new name, so I'll call this My New Workbook. What we have below this here is a code cell, and this is where we can enter and execute our code. For example, if we enter 5 plus 5 into this cell, we can then run the cell by going up here and clicking on the Run Cell button. And this will then output our result just below this. We can also do the same thing for any other Python code. So I'll now use the print function just to print out Hello World. So when it comes to running our cells, instead of coming up here to the top and clicking on the Run button every time that we want to execute our code or run a cell, we can instead just press Shift plus Enter, and that's a helpful shortcut to run a cell, so that we don't have to come up here to the top and click Run every time. As an alternative, we also have Alt plus Enter, and that will both run the cell and create a new cell below our current cell as well, as we can see here. Let's now have a look at how to insert new cells to our notebook. First, we'll need to enter command mode. We can see here that currently we have a cell selected, and this means that we're currently editing the values in our actual cell. And if we wanted to, we could begin typing in this cell. If we press escape, you'll see that our cursor disappears from the cell and loses its selection. This means that we are now in command mode, so we'll be able to edit the entire notebook. If we now press A, that will insert a cell above our current cell, and if we press B, that will insert a cell below. If we need to change the order of our cells, we can go to our Edit tab, then either move the cell up or down, or alternatively, we can cut the cell and then paste it elsewhere within the notebook. So, as mentioned, Jupyter also supports Markdown and Markdown formatting inside of our notebook. To use Markdown formatting, we'll first need to change our cell to be a Markdown cell as opposed to a code cell. If you look up here at the top of our notebook, we can see that this cell is currently a code cell. And if we go into our drop-down menu here, we'll see an option for Markdown. So let's just go and select that. And now within this cell, we can write in Markdown. So if we type a few characters in here and then run the cell, we'll see that it outputs text as opposed to code. Let's now have a quick look at some of the common Markdown syntax and formatting that we might use. To start, we have our headings. And to format our text as a heading, we can use the hashtag. And as we can see, there are different levels to this. Next, we have bold and italic, which are made available with either a double or single asterisk respectively. Next, we have our two types of lists, which are ordered and unordered. So for ordered, we just provide a number, and then for our unordered, it's a hyphen. And then our final three options are the line break, code, and block quote options. And we'll now have a look at entering this markdown into our notebook. And let's start by entering a title into our markdown cell. To do this, we'll enter a hashtag, and then we'll add in our title, which will be heading 1. Below this, in the same cell, I'll create a heading 2 by starting with 2 hashtags. Next, we can create our unordered list with a hyphen, and then anything we write in here will be part of a bullet point list. If we changed our hyphen to be a number, we'd see that we then get a numbered list. And additionally, if we wrap our text here inside of double asterisks, it'll become bold, and with a single asterisk, it'll be italic. To finish off here, I'll now show you how to stop and restart our kernel. So a kernel is basically a program that executes our code. Let's say that we have an infinite while loop running and we need a way to stop it. To do this, we can go to our kernel tab, and then from within here, we have the option to restart our kernel. And this will stop any currently running cells and allow us to fix any issues with our code before running them again. Okay, perfect. That there is a really solid introduction to the Jupyter Notebook and our development environment. To save our notebook and the work we've done here, we can click on this little floppy disk here in the top left, or go to our File tab and select Save Notebook. And then when we come back to use this notebook, we'll have all of our work saved. And now that we're finished here with this lecture, let's go ahead and close our Jupyter Notebook. All we need to do is go back to our File tab, and then from the bottom, we can select Shut Down, which will shut down the Jupyter environment. If we then try and refresh our page, it will refuse to connect, which means that the kernel and the process is dead, and is therefore not using any memory or resource on our PC. Alright, and that's basically everything that you need to know about our Jupyter Notebooks. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to post them in the Q&A section below, and I'll be happy to help you out. I'll see you all in the next section, where we'll get started on our Python crash course.